Hey everyone, hope you have a great start to the week. Today I'm going to be discussing the 5 mistakes that I wish I knew not to make when I was beginning calisthenics. Now these are mistakes that you may still be making, whether you're a beginner, intermediate or advanced, and the mistakes that will definitely hinder your progression in your calisthenics journey. And by watching this video to the end, you can ensure that you'll continue to progress, whether you're training specifically for building muscle, functional strength or skill training, or a combination of all three, and you'll be able to achieve your goals step by step, consistently on a week-to-week basis. And these are also errors that are easy to fall into, and more often than not are the reasons why you suddenly stagnate and find you're not making the progress that you previously were on your calisthenics journey. So mistake number 1, not consistently tracking your progress. Now, surprisingly, this is far more common than you'd think. And it's not just a question that you should be writing everything down, but rather that you should be thinking of your own body weight as you would a weight in the gym that you're lifting. Because your body or central nervous system doesn't think to itself, well, I'll treat this workout differently and I'll respond to it differently because he or she isn't doing a bench press or overhead press in the gym, but rather doing weighted push-ups or elevated pike push-ups. Your body doesn't know the difference. So on that basis, it makes no sense whatsoever if you can only do, say, 10 push-ups to suddenly turn around the next week and try to do 1 arm push-ups or archer push-ups, because the progression or the amount of weight that you're lifting would be like going to the gym, doing a bench press one week with 40 kilos for 10 reps or 88 pounds, and then going to the gym the following week and trying to do lying flat dumbbell press with 2 dumbbells, 30 kilos each, 66 pounds in each hand. And of course, these are just estimates. The exact amount will depend on your own body weight. And this is the first thing you should be figuring out at the beginning of your calisthenics journey. And because I have quite a lot of muscle density, I weigh around 83 kilos. Now this is 182 pounds for people in the US. I'm going to work with kilos just to make this easier. The average amount lifted in a push-up is around 65% of your body weight according to most sources. So 65% of my body weight will be 54 kilos, right? The average amount of weight lifted on each arm for archer push-ups is around 50 to 60% on each arm. Let's say we stick with 50%. That means the amount lifted on each arm when I do archer push-ups is going to be around 41.5 kilos, which is 83 kilos total with both sides. So to use an example, let's say hypothetically I could only do 10 push-ups. That'd be the equivalent of me going to the gym and lifting around 50 to 53 kilos 10 times. Now let's say the following week I went to try to do archer push-ups. That would be the equivalent of me trying to lift 2 dumbbells, each of which weighed 41 kilos, and expecting to be able to go from 50 kilos in 2 hands to 83 with 2 hands. And the body just doesn't work like that. Now, often I've seen advice given to switch the exercises to slightly harder versions as a means of progressing. And you can do this. It will make the exercise harder. But in order for that approach to be effective, the exercise needs to move within the same plane of motion. So if you're starting out, for example, and you're doing push-ups on your knees, and you reach 15 push-ups on your knees, you could then alternate to doing push-ups with one leg straight and the other knee bent, and then the other leg straight, the other knee bent. And that would work because it's in the same plane of motion, which is precisely why I've used it as an exercise progression in my video, How to Start Calisthenics in 12 Minutes. And this is something that you'll definitely want to watch if you are beginning calisthenics, as it will show you exactly step by step how to go from push-ups on your knees to regular push-ups. And keep an eye out for the link at the end of this that will take you directly through to that video. So if you've reached a stage where you can do regular push-ups, you're probably thinking to yourself, well, how do I then progress to the more advanced versions, such as archer push-ups? Now, one option would be to change the plane of motion. Now, this will make the exercise more challenging. So, for example, if you can do 10 to 15 regular push-ups and you start doing decline push-ups on a small stool, it will make the exercise more challenging. Except the problem is, it will also target the muscles in a different way. So if you look at push-ups as being similar to bench press, decline push-ups would be similar to incline presses, as the exercise move in a similar plane of motion. So instead of primarily targeting the middle chest, triceps and the deltoids, when you do push-ups, you'd be shifting the emphasis more to the upper chest, more to the front of the delts and less to the triceps when you do decline push-ups. So for that reason, I wouldn't consider decline push-ups to be an advancement from push-ups, but rather an additional exercise you should be adding into your routine. And I'll get into that more in a moment. So one option to increase the intensity of any exercise is to increase the number of reps. Of course, if you could do, say, 30 push-ups as opposed to 10 push-ups, you're going to be a lot stronger and a lot better at push-ups and more able to advance on to the more progressive versions, such as archer push-ups, one-arm push-ups, etc. Another alternative is to use a weight vest. So you can purchase these online. I have 30 kilo weight vest I use, and it comes in 1 kilogram increments. So you can start off just using 1 kilogram in the vest and then add an additional kilogram for each session that you're doing push-ups or pull-ups or whatever exercise you're doing. And I find this to be an absolutely fantastic way to advance your calisthenics progress, because you can actually adjust the weights in very small amounts like you would be doing in the gym, and that helps you to move on to the more advanced exercise within the same plane of motion. So that's something that I would definitely recommend. And don't forget, I'm only using push-ups as an example. This applies equally to any other calisthenics exercise, such as any pulling exercise, etc. And this brings me on to the next mistake that you definitely don't want to make, and that's not having an effective body part workout split. And what that means is you want to ensure that you have at least 48 to 72 hours between working out any upper body pushing muscle group or any upper body pulling muscle group. So for example, how you structure your program's up to you, but if you decide to train your chest and your triceps on Monday, you don't want to be training your shoulders on a Tuesday, because you're going to be using similar muscles on your shoulder day than you are using on your chest and tricep day, and you won't recover. Same if you train your back. You don't want to be training your biceps the following day, because again, your biceps will have come very much into the back exercises, such as chin-ups, pull-ups, inverted rows, etc. So you want to ensure that as you're training one muscle group, the opposing muscle group has time to recover, such as the pulling muscles will recover as you're doing your pushing workout, and your pushing muscles will recover as you're doing your pulling workout. And you also want to schedule your program so you're not doing too many sets. I personally find for each of the large muscle groups, such as chest, upper back, etc., around 6 to 7 sets for me personally is optimal. And for the smaller muscle groups such as triceps, biceps, etc., I'd usually do around 3 to 4 sets. Now this will vary depending on your genetics, your age, your diet, etc., but it's a good starting point to work from. And the way to work this into your program, as you get more advanced in specific exercises, you could then move on to the more advanced exercises and add them into your routine as well. So for example, if you're doing 2 sets of archer push-ups, you could then do 2 sets of decline push-ups, so 2 sets of weighted decline push-ups, 2 sets of parallel bar dips, 2 sets of weighted parallel bar dips, for example. For pulling exercises, you could do 2 sets of weighted pull-ups or 2 sets of pull-ups, then you could do 2 sets of inverted rows. Or if you're moving on to even more advanced exercises, 2 sets of front lever raises. So you're working your back in different ways within those 6 to 7 sets per body part. But as it's very individual, and the exact number of sets you'll have to figure out for yourself, which is why it's very important, moving back to the first point, to consistently track your progress so you can figure out exactly what's working for you. So, moving on to mistake number 3. Attempting advanced exercises consistently before you're ready. And this ties in very much to the number of reps that you're doing. So again, if you think about, if you were training in the gym, you wouldn't go for a maximum bench press and try to lift it 10 times for 1 rep with a 2 to 3 minute break in between, or an overhead shoulder press for 1 rep maximum weight 10 times with a few minutes rest in between, and then try to do that every single week and expect to go from lifting 80 kilos over your head for 1 rep 1 week to lifting 80 over your head for 2 reps the following week, because that's essentially attempting to double your strength within 1 week period, or the 2 training sessions. And exactly the same principle applies to calisthenics. So if you get to the stage where you can do 1 handstand push-up, and you then try to do 1 handstand push-up 10 times, and I've seen some advice on the internet suggesting people do this, and having a few minutes break in between, and then going back the next week and expecting to do 2 reps, going back the next week expecting to do 3 reps. It's the same principle. Your body doesn't work like that. And it's a very important point, because it's something that many people try to do and get frustrated as a result. And it's something that I've tried to do before with certain exercises. And handstand push-ups is an example of one of those exercises where I've managed to achieve 2 reps. The next week I've expected that I should be able to achieve 3, and then 4, and then 5, and then I've been using that as my only exercise. And what it does is it overtaxes your central nervous system. And when you get people in the gym and they're doing power lifts, they wouldn't be lifting their 1 rep max, and certainly not 10 times in a row every single week. So what I would suggest as a far more practical approach, and an approach that actually works, is to do modified versions of the same exercise. It's perfectly okay to be doing handstand push-up, or testing how many handstand push-ups you can do, say once a month. That won't tax your central nervous system. I'm talking about the low rep range here, you know, when you can only do 1 rep, 2 rep, or maybe 3 rep at an absolute struggle with not great form. Once you get up to around 5 reps, then it becomes a set. And once you can do a set, then yes, you can continue to do that and continue to add reps. So what I'd suggest you do is, when you're working towards these more advanced exercises, and what's worked better for me, is to do modified versions of the same exercise. So for example, doing weighted, elevated pike push-ups is a fantastic way to gain small increments of strength each training session, because you're in exactly the same position as you would be for a handstand push-up. You're adding weight in the vest, you've got your feet elevated, so you're getting closer and closer to the actual strength you need to do a complete set of handstand push-ups in good form. And then when you've got to the stage where you can do that, you can then continue to add reps on that. And whilst you're doing your elevated pike push-ups or elevated weighted pike push-ups, you know, once every few weeks, maybe once a month, you can test out your handstand push-ups to see how many you can do without overtaxing your central nervous system. So again, this is a mistake that people make, and it's one that's easily avoided. And it may be one of the reasons why your progress has stagnated, or is stagnating on certain exercises. And that brings me on to another point, which is something that you most definitely want to avoid. And this is just randomly trying out exercises because you've watched a video, for example, you think, oh, hold on, I've got the form wrong. So wait, I'm going to try those 1-arm push-ups again, or I'm going to try those 1-arm assisted pull-ups again, without thinking, well, actually, I trained the same body part yesterday. So if I then go ahead and start trying to do this today, it's the same principle as if you were in the gym and you're training your chest or triceps 2 days in a row. You know, your body needs time to recuperate, it needs time to rest. And even though it's very easy to get very enthusiastic and think to yourself, oh, I'm going to try that now. I mean, I've seen this so many times. I've been on the bus with people, oh, look, there's a bar, we can try that for pull-ups. Maybe not on the bus, but on the train. One of my friends was like, oh yeah, no, let's see how many pull-ups we can do. I was like, well, no, I'm not going to do that because I did pull-ups yesterday. You know, if I start to see how many reps I can do, how many pull-ups I can do, then it's just defeated the pull-ups I did the day before, because I knew exactly how many sets, how many reps I needed to do for optimal results. Took my protein, my supplements. Yeah, but then get up and start seeing how many pull-ups I can do. I'm going to end up overtraining myself. Next time I go back and train back, I won't have made any progress. So these are all factors, again, that are easy to slip into, but easily avoided. And by avoiding them, you can continue to make consistent progress. But of course, you can only make consistent progress if you avoid mistake number 4, which is poor exercise form. So you want to make sure that every single exercise you are doing correctly. Not just correctly, but consistently correctly within every workout. When you're doing your push-ups, you want to ensure that you keep your elbows close to your body, that you retract your shoulder blades, that you go for a full lockout at the end. And when you're doing pull-ups, whether you're doing it with a hollow back for higher pull-ups, you want to ensure you do that consistently. Or if you're going for weighted pull-ups and you're doing them more with an arched back, you want to ensure that you do the correct technique consistently. And one of the biggest hindrances to this is trying to attempt advanced exercises consistently before you're ready, which was mistake number 3. Because of course, if you can't do the exercise for a certain number of reps, I'd say around at least 4 to 5 reps, then you're gonna most likely start to slip with your form, because you'll get frustrated, you'll want to do more reps, you'll start not going all the way down when you're trying to do handstand push-ups, you'll start to not go all the way up to the bar if you stack too much weight on when you're doing pull-ups. So again, all of these different factors tie in together. And for tips on correct exercise form, just check out many of my videos. I explain how to do the exercises correctly, and by following along, watching those videos, you can ensure that every exercise you do, you're doing in the best possible form, which will ensure you keep on progressing week after week, month after month, and year after year, consistently throughout your calisthenics journey, whether you're training for muscle density, functional strength, skills, or a combination of all 3. So moving on to the final mistake that you don't want to be making, and that is insufficient rest and inadequate diet. And that means you want to be avoiding junk food, you want to be eating lean meat such as chicken, fish, lean beef, plenty of vegetables. Try to make these as varied as possible: salad, broccoli, beans. These are all packed full of vitamins, minerals. You want to ensure that you have enough carbohydrates to give you the energy to train, but not so many that you stack on weight. If you have too much carbohydrates, in my experience, this tends to add weight, but you still want to ensure that you have a healthy diet. It's also very important to ensure that you're getting enough protein, especially as you start to progress further. You'll find your body needs more protein, and I'd personally recommend adding in a whey protein supplement. Usually these have around 48 grams of protein per serving and only around 120 calories, and it's very difficult to get that amount of protein with that small amount of calories just by eating meats and fishes and other protein rich food. So now getting on to the final point, getting enough sufficient rest. And this is something that certainly has been a mistake of myself in the past. I used to suffer from quite severe insomnia, and since getting 8 to 9 hours sleep a night, which I've been doing pretty much consistently since January, my strength gains have really improved. And this isn't something you want to obsess over. Obviously, if you lie there worrying about whether you're going to get to sleep or not, you more than likely won't be able to get to sleep. But many studies have shown that this is when the muscles repair themselves, is when you're sleeping, and getting enough sleep really makes a difference. You know, if you have the odd night where you only have 3 or 4 hours sleep, this happens to everyone, that's absolutely fine. But just try to get somewhere between 7 to 9 hours sleep a night, and that will really help you to advance in calisthenics. And what has helped me personally to get more sleep is not to go on social media at night, because social media is designed to keep you on social media. So if you find yourself addressing comments, responding to comments, going through your notifications, the light of the phone itself, plus all of that external racket that's coming in to your world, is going to disturb your sleep. So that factor has really helped me to get sufficient rest. Also, it doesn't really matter what time you go to sleep, in my personal experience. So if it's the weekend and you stay up late, say you just stay up till 3 because you're watching TV or whatever, that's absolutely fine if you can get up at 11 in the morning. But just because you might wake up at 7, doesn't mean you have to get up at 7. And that's another factor I realised. I used to just get up. As soon as I woke up, I'd get up. And now, often, I will get up and I'll have something to eat if I'm hungry. And I'll just go back and get a few more hours sleep. And that has really, really benefited me. So these are, again, very important factors that will help you to consistently progress with your calisthenics journey, week to week, month to month, year to year, and ultimately become the very best version of yourself in calisthenics and bring out that elite calisthenics athlete within you. So check out some other workout videos. If you're starting out, how to begin calisthenics, only 12 minutes. If you're more advanced, 15-minute no equipment workout that actually works. I've got full routines, chest, triceps, shoulders, back, legs, abs, fat burning workouts. I've arranged some playlists for you to make them more accessible and easy to find. If you've enjoyed this content, hit that like and subscribe button, share with your friends. Don't forget to turn your notifications on so you don't miss out on any future videos. Leave a comment in the section down below. Let us know what challenges you've faced in your calisthenics journey. It's always helpful for viewers to share their experiences within the comment section. That way everyone can help each other out. Thanks for watching, everyone. Have a great week, and I'll see you all in the next video.